cameras are on. Thank you for taking that note. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with a local celebrity. Make sure to get his autograph afterwards. None other than TJ Cleveland, a good friend of mine, a longstanding client of mine. And I don't know, I'm going to tee it up a little bit. I'm going to do a little introduction for you, and then we'll kind of dive into where I'm so excited to pick your brain. But TJ is a business owner, a father, a real estate investor, I don't know what to call your hobbies, but if it has a motor, TJ likes it.
I play with it.
Yeah,
I play with
whether it's boats or race trucks or whatever. But really, all around really great person too. And to share a quick story before we kind of dive in and let me start picking your brain. But for anybody listening, I used to sell phone book ads of all things, and used to call on TJ and his dad. And this was, I'm trying to think what year this was, probably 2012, 13-ish,
probably
10 years ago, right about.
probably.
And TJ gets to forever wear the badge of my first ever digital sale. The first website I ever sold was to TJ and Durango Automotive Repair. And I'm proud to say also the first website that you guys ever had. And so it's been fun to see how, I don't know.
We had that Durango 360 one that was horrible.
I'll call that a landing page probably.
Yeah.
But it's been fun to see how, now, and then some of the stuff we're going to dive into, but since then you've progressed in such a way with like the, drive leadership stuff, and you've rebranded your business, you've changed names, the digital footprint has changed a ton. I don't know. It's been really cool because 10 years ago, sitting in your office with your dad, and really none of us had any idea what we're doing.
Any of it. Yeah.
and now, to see where we're at. But so anyway, I'm super excited about it. And you're a guy that I've looked up to for a long time because I've seen how you carry yourself in the community. I see how you run your business, and I see, I see the other things. And so I'm super excited to learn a little bit from you and to pick your brain. To start, I'd love, and also worth mentioning, I also think it's really cool that you went into business with your dad. I think that's neat. My dad is the minority partner. I joke with everyone that he's my advisory board.
Doesn't he make cardboard?
Yeah, he does.
So
he sells cardboard. Yeah.
A board anyway.
If you're listening, Dad, it takes a great salesman to sell an empty box. Okay,
Exactly.
We're just giving you props. But I want to hear about the early days. I want to hear, because I know I believe it was your dad or maybe your grandfather that started Durango Muffler and Brake. But I want to hear about you kind of getting involved with the business and tell me about the, day one with when it was Durango Muffler.
Well, technically day one of the shop was in the 50s in California. My grandpa had Bob's Custom Mufflers in El Monte, California. They'd come out here to go hunting and stuff, and they just loved it. My grandma loved it out here, so on and so forth. California was getting busier and busier and busier and busier. So they picked up in 1972 and moved out here. And my grandpa actually went to work for Montgomery Ward, I think. Whatever, it was like an early Sears as a mechanic.
Oh, cool.
And then he opened a shop with a good friend of ours, actually just passed away, gave him a building to use in the meantime, where Durango Joe's by South City Market is. It used to be a filling station. And they had 2 bays in there, and that's where my grandpa would work out of. And then they moved down to, it's a hotel now, but there used to be a river rafting place across from City Market. Remember that was that little rock climbing gym used to be?
Yeah.
I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Down there was a 1-bay shop. They had 1 indoor and 2 outdoor lifts, and they would do exhaust work and automotive work out of there. Then they moved up to 11th Street. Right? We're 11th Street Station.
Yeah.
That used to be our shop.
No way.
Yeah. So that's where and then Jimmy Lewis, a good friend of mine, or actually a good mentor of mine, owned Durango Brake, where across from the fairgrounds where Big O Tire was, and then Cole's Chop Shop, and I'm not sure what it is now, but Jimmy Lewis was up there, and my grandpa was at 11th Street, and they both wanted a bigger building and so on and so forth, but during the Carter administration, no one could afford anything because interest rates were almost 12%. And so they went in together and purchased 15th and Main, right? And so they purchased it together 50-50. Jimmy got 2 bays, my grandpa got 3, but Jimmy got the office type deal. And they worked out of there since 1981, and they'd been in that building. But my grandfather started Durango Muffler in 1976. Oh, sorry, 1974. Moved into our current location in 1981.
Wow.
Worked out of there in 1990. My dad started the process of purchasing it from my grandfather. My grandfather moved to Pahrump, Nevada. Stayed retired for about a year and then opened Pahrump Muffler because he was going stir crazy and he wanted somewhere to work and get out of the house. And so he started Pahrump Muffler. So we always said we franchised.
Yeah.
At that point. And then my dad would travel back and forth and we'd go see my grandfather out there and he'd always have work for us to do. And, hey, my boys are coming in, bring it in this day and so on and so forth. So we'd be working out there anytime we were out of town. And I was a kid.
Did he pay you, or were you working
no,
paying your dues more?
No. When I was a kid working at the shop here, I'd go in and clean after school or on the weekends or during the summer and so on and so forth. If I got $20 a week, it was lucky type deal.
Yeah.
And then are
you an only child?
I'm not. I actually have 2 sisters.
Okay.
My mom had 2 daughters before she met my father. My middle sister, the one older, 6 years older than me, my dad is her dad.
Okay.
Never really met my oldest sister. I remember her like this much, just a little teeny tiny bit. But my middle sister, I call her my only sister, 6 years older than me, and she left the day she turned 18.
Yeah.
She was out of here. She traveled to have fun, had a kid. Traveled. She's extremely successful in a kitchen and bath design company and
cool.
cabinets and so on and so forth. She lives in Spokane, Washington now. She ended up in Seattle, married another guy, has 2 more kids. She's now a grandma, which is kind of funny to me, but so where was I?
So when you were super young, you're helping out, cleaning up at night and stuff like that.
Clean up at night. My dad would always try to teach me how to weld. Because welding is a huge part of exhaust work. My dad's one of the best welders I've ever met. Great guy to learn from, taught me a ton about it. And then bending exhaust to me is an art form, an absolute art form. And then to do it right, make sure all the clearances are there. You don't burn anyone's car down or cause a rattle or a buzz or anything like that. I've learned since I was a kid. I've grew up in the shop. I grew up working on cars. I grew up, at home fixing stuff, trying to, get to town again. We never had super nice vehicles. My dad actually still owned my dad's truck that he had when I was born.
How cool.
It's sitting at my house right now. It needs a lot of love, but
it needs work.
If
only you knew a good mechanic.
Only if I knew a guy. Well, if my wife would give me any of the garage.
Yeah.
She's got all of her cars in the garage. I got a 4-car garage and it's full of her stuff.
Of course.
My stuff sits outside, but it is what it is.
Those early days, before you're formally involved in the business, I'll say, you're going to school, you're doing the cleanup and stuff like that. I'm curious, was it from the, in the Cleveland household, is the narrative kind of talking shop, so to speak, but, working on cars and wrenching, or is there also conversation about the business side of it?
Zero conversation business.
Okay.
Side.
It's really just,
and it wasn't even, we didn't even talk about really about cars or about this or about that. It was more me asking questions, why are you doing that? Why are you moving that? Why are you, why? Because I know the next one, I better know how to do it because he ain't going to tell me again type situation. And honestly, I learned a lot about automotive from my grandfather because I'd go spend a month and a half with him every summer. And we worked in the shop 5 days a week. We'd play on the weekends, but we were usually playing with things with motors.
How cool is that? So, because, and too, I don't know, for you, that's a fond memory of summers with your grandpa. But and obviously it's I'm sure that it was fun for him too. But he was just working.
Yeah, I mean, he never worked real hard in those days. He always had someone there and he'd steer him and this and that, but it was a lot of camaraderie, BSing, cigars.
Yeah.
Um, I always wanted, I mean, we grew up with horses, we grew up with mules. My grandpa always had mules. Um, we would hitch up the state. I mean, he rebuilt wagons, rebuilt stagecoaches. He had a stagecoach that he actually acquired somehow from somewhere in Britain. It was actually a school bus, and there was only 7 of them or 4 of them made for that era's kids. Each kid had their own school bus, and he had gotten one and rebuilt. It's actually in the Smithsonian now.
Wow.
And him and I got it stuck one time in the mud, and he rode one of the mules home to get a pickup to pull us out, and I figured he'd just bring a pickup back, but no, he brought the pickup with the mule in the back of it, and then made me drive the wagon home while he drove the pickup. He went to the bar, and I went home and unhitched everything, and put everything away and fed, and
How
so on and
awesome.
so forth. But I mean, just everything we did had wheels, and we were working on it. It didn't matter what it was, you know. I mean, and everybody knew, and it's still to this day, everybody, you know, when they have a question or concern or whatever, they call me or stop me on the street or ask me to be part of their race team. Like, hey, go here. I'm actually leaving Sunday for a race.
Yeah.
You know, and so the early days, I guess, was more or less, I better pay attention because I better know it next time.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't, I didn't have that second chance of, hey, how did that work again? Well, I done showed you once.
And that's all you
That's
get.
all you get.
So I'm curious. I've got a lot of questions. But was there ever I don't know, you know, when everyone's saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? And those, like, was there ever a question of, you know, where your career trajectory was going to take you? Or did you always know, like, my grandfather was a mechanic, my dad's a mechanic, I'm going to be a mechanic, this is what we do? Or was it something that you sort of found?
No, it was, I did not want to be a mechanic at all. I didn't at all.
Of course not.
I wanted, actually, honestly, to be 100% honest with you, I wanted to be a truck driver.
Mm.
There's just something about big trucks I loved, and I learned how to drive them when I was super young. I own one today just to pull my fifth wheel because it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, my wife loves it. My daughter loves it, you know, type deal. It was okay, I got to go back to get my true directory into the automotive world, into the industry. So when I was in high school, I had gotten hired on with UPS as a preloader reloader. So I would go in at 3:30 in the morning. I would work from 3:30 to 9, and then go to my first class at 9:30. Go to school from 9:30 to 3:30. And I wanted extra money because that's what teenagers want: is more money for more fuel and
especially if you're into trucks
and lots of more, you know, more soda. And so I would work the shop from 3:30 to 5:30, and I'd go back to UPS from 6 to midnight.
Wow.
And then sleep for a couple hours and go back to UPS at 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And I did that 5 days a week, right? So being in the shop, you know, my dad was supposed to be the cleanup boy, and I turned into, you know, changing parts and doing this and doing that and diving into diagnostics and so on and so forth. And so it just kind of steered me in that direction, and I liked working for UPS because I liked the money and I liked the insurance, but I did not like the union. That was the biggest thing. And so when I left there, I went to work for my dad full time in the summers, and then him and I got crossways, and I went to another shop and worked there full time and made money actually at that shop. It was weird. You know, I wasn't working for pennies, I was working for dollars.
That'll be a theme we'll revisit, the difference between an employee and
and a family member.
Yeah.
I probably have the highest paid accountant in town. You know. No, and so when I went to work for that other shop, I realized I was really good at it. You know, and I get this. I know what I'm doing. You know, it almost came second nature.
So did it turn into a passion at that point? Like
No.
you just knew you're good at it.
I was good at it, and I knew I was fast at it, and I knew I could get better every single day. I knew I could get better every day. You know what I mean? And so at that point, I was like, okay, maybe this is something I need to pursue and learn how to do. You know, type deal. And so that's when I went and got my SEs and so on and so forth, which they're great. They're certifications. You do learn a lot from them. And then long story short, I guess leaving my dad the first time made me not come back, but I actually went to work for Jimmy Lewis, who owned Durango Brake, because he had an employee get sick. So then it was cool. I was working next to my dad, but not for my dad,
Right.
and learning more from someone else, So it was, I learned a lot from my grandfather. I learned a lot from my father. I learned a lot from Jimmy Lewis, and then came back around in circle when Jimmy Lewis wanted to sell and purchased his business. And then my dad and I merged, and that's where Durango Muffler and Brake came from. So it was like this big 360 circle.
I think that's interesting because, well, there's another point I want to get at, but I think a lot of people maybe have, whenever there's like the father-son dynamic, I don't know, there's sort of like did he earn it or did he work his way, like how did that work type of thing. I didn't realize that you had purchased the other component of the business, and then you guys basically partnered
again. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden I find myself working for my dad again.
Not with him,
with him, but for him again somehow. But I had like this much, control and so on and so forth.
How is your dad?
He's okay.
Yeah.
He's okay.
I miss seeing him at the gym.
Yeah. It's he's definitely, he's not the same Tony you remember.
Yeah.
Type deal. So for our listeners and people that know my father had a stroke in 2019, a major stroke. Actually got the opportunity to kill him twice in the hospital. I had to sign paperwork saying, yes, you can stop his heart and hopefully it restarts. So I always tell people, you always wanted to kill your father. I got the chance, but I allowed them to bring him back. So he had a stroke in 2019, and it really took a toll on him. And I had prematurely retired my dad for 4 years prior to that.
Yeah.
So he got 4 years of retirement was all. But he's in a really good spot right now. He's with my mom up in Spokane, Washington. They're at a assisted type living place. They're still on their own. They still have full freedom. They can come and go as they please. It's not like, he's bedridden or anything.
Right.
He walks around and still tells jokes, and his long-term memory is perfect. His short-term memory is not there.
Sounds like me.
So it's just one of those things. But so get back to the whole grand scheme of things and that was in 2000. So I was 18 at the time, I guess, when I bought Durango Brake. I sold everything I had. Sold my motorcycle, sold my boat, sold guns, sold whatever, so I could get enough money.
Yeah.
And then I was a business owner at 18 or 19, I can't remember. But and then in 2016, I couldn't take working for my father anymore. I couldn't do it. Even though we were partners or whatever it may be, loved the man to death, but I just couldn't work with him anymore. And I was going to, and then we're kind of bouncing all over the place here.
That's how it goes.
So in 2010, I opened a catering company for supplemental income.
Yeah.
And was doing catering on the side every single weekend in the summer and as much as I could in the winter. Started a sister company of the shop as a shrink wrapping company, and I shrink wrap boats all fall, and then state patrol accidents and stuff that had to be investigated and had to be evidence sealed and so on and so forth. Started that around the same time. And so when I started getting a little itch, I was going to leave the automotive world and open a restaurant.
Yeah. You also explored a septic business for a little while.
I did explore septic.
We explored it together.
And I'm like, I wish we would have done it. It'd been great for like 2 years, but now it's on the downtrend.
Yeah. The market has changed.
The market got saturated.
Yeah. And they're crushing it.
Right.
Well, and that's what you bring up, an interesting point. And that's where I want to get in your mind a little bit, because one of the things I've always admired about you has been your entrepreneurial spirit. I've seen you in the BNI groups. I've sat in your office and priced out septic trucks together. And I mean, I've seen the smoke ring barbecue stuff at the rodeos, and the shrink wrapping and all that stuff. And what's interesting to me is that there is enormous differences between a mechanic and an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through that evolution, because I totally understand, the love for engines and wheels growing up and wrenching, and like I that's a lot of people have that story. Very rarely do people go from there to owning multiple businesses,
Barbecue.
real estate, and you've kind of always got these ideas cranking.
They're always moving.
Yeah, whenever we meet, and there's always like, what if we did that, or what about this? I mean, you've even gone to, don't let me misrepresent it, but like the management, like the leadership programs with Drive. I forget but it's like almost a consulting type.
Yeah, it was a consulting
type
company,
role.
correct, yeah.
So there's been all of these. There's like also, so there's the your standard. My grandfather was a mechanic. My dad was a mechanic. I'm a mechanic kind of story. But then there's also this sort of like true entrepreneurial spirit. Where did you find that? Where did, I mean, was it a love for money? Was it creative? Because there, and I should mention for anybody listening too, underlying all that, clearly from like your days at UPS, there's also an incredible work ethic. Like, you've never been afraid of hard work.
I've never been afraid of work. I mean, it's work is work. There'll be more tomorrow. So I would say I get a lot of my entrepreneur or my drive to succeed or my drive to make a buck from him. That's just who he was.
Like, was your dad entrepreneurial? Like, did your dad own a mechanic business to be a mechanic, or did your dad own a mechanic business
to make a buck,
to be an entrepreneur? There's a difference.
He did it to help his father. When my grandfather broke his back, my dad came home from college to help here at the shop and so on and so forth. It just kind of stuck a little bit.
Okay.
Then he went back. Then he played pro ball for 3 years and so on and so forth.
But there was never like talk of P&L statements and scalability and marketing and growth plan. I mean, it was just, we're just running a business so here, we have jobs.
We put on mufflers and we fix cars. There's our street sign.
Right.
I mean,
and your phone,
an ad in the phone book. Yeah, an ad in the phone book was there.
And depending on how good the salesman was, how big the
ad was going to be. Right.
That's fascinating to me, though. So where did this kind of entrepreneurial drive come from for you? When did you first find it? When did you first realize that, like, ooh, I like the business side?
Honestly, it was probably when I went to when I went to sorry,
I just got to keep it in front of you.
I just keep moving my head.
No, you're good.
Over here
we thought you'd be too far back.
I know, right? Now I'm like self-conscious of it.
Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
We overcorrected.
Yeah. It was probably when I joined Drive, meaning it's a management consulting company. And I saw,
because that was
the other side
of the business side.
Right. I knew how to fix cars. I can do that. That's fine. I know how to fix cars.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. I didn't know how to run a P&L. I didn't know how to look at a balance sheet. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to pay employees properly. I didn't know how to set up benefits. I didn't know any of that. And when I started learning that, I'm like, oh. And then I started learning the business side of it. I was like, oh. Granted, I'm 20 years old at this point, 21 years old at this point. And then I went through their program and earned my master's in just shy of 3 years. I was the fastest person to go through all of it and succeed and do better and so on and so forth through their stuff. And that's when they asked me to come to work for them to go do on-site shop inspections and so on and so forth. Yeah. So then I started seeing other people's stuff.
Oh, cool.
Right? So I started seeing the other things and how they did things and how I thought things they did were right, how I thought things they did were wrong, and so on and so forth, and how I helped them. And I'd write a 40-page report, which I hated.
But it forced you to actually learn about the business.
Sit down and exactly.
Wow, cool.
And so, I would stress to anyone as a new business, hire a business coach. no matter who it is, what it is. Let someone else come from the outside looking in, because us as business owners think we're doing it right, and I think this is how I'm supposed to do it. I think that's how. Well, sometimes what you think may be wrong or may be right, but yet at the same time, there's always ways to be better.
Right.
Right. And so, and that's the way I always looked at everything when I started doing all these. I mean, it was the same way. I mean, with my catering company, after joining Management Success and everything else, I started changing the way not the way I cooked things. Obviously that's no different than fixing cars.
Is the thing.
The thing is the thing, It's no different than how to put things on the internet and make things out there.
Right.
But am I charging enough? Am I charging too much? Am I paying enough?
Are the terms right? I mean, all the other things.
The other things that people, the backside. The backside is where people need to learn. And so that's when I really started to make the curve, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's so interesting, because I think back, like, I had the benefit of kind of climbing a corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
I never had kind of the formal like consulting training, but I didn't realize how much I was learning until afterwards. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I got to at least be, in the meetings with the going over the financials and the budget planning and, that side of it, because I've got a degree in marketing.
Right.
And, my thing is marketing. Your thing is, yeah. But I never first time ever running a business. And so I'm like, holy cow, thank goodness. Because I always feel like I've been entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. Like I've had the personality of an entrepreneur my whole life. It's also why I've really liked commission-based sales. Like I've always done well with incentive income and things like that. But had I not had the training from a corporate kind of structure world, I would have had no clue how to like actually run a business.
Well, and I mean, it's huge when you can sit back and learn from others. So one of my biggest, not quotes, it's not my quote, is surround yourself with people smarter than you.
Yeah.
Right. Some of my best friends are multi millionaires, and I pick their brain like it's going out of style.
Why do you think I started a podcast?
Before I, make a plunge into something, I'm picking these guys' brains. Like, what do you think? How would you do this? How would you do that? And they're, and they give me, you're freaking crazy.
But I would do it like this.
But I would do it like this. They're like, but it's not a bad idea. But why would you do that right now? I'm like, well, because then, type thing.
Right.
So it's really fun to bounce those things off of people smarter than you.
How do you find those people? Like for you, anybody listening, because I think that's such great advice of,
listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
Okay.
I listen. I listen. I don't want to say I'm eavesdropping on you, but I listen to conversations. That's the old saying, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And that is 100% true, is listening. It's no different than sales.
Right.
Listen.
Yeah.
Because usually people will step on their own mouth before you step on yours for them.
Right. And you're gathering information.
Exactly. So, I mean, I would say I find them per se, listening. Like the guy that handles my portfolio, I got from another person that's done successful and worked through this and worked through that and so on and so forth. And I ended up getting his name, and then because he didn't want to give it to me right off the bat,
of course,
and then just listening to him talk, and then the name of his company. And so I called the company and asked for that guy and so on and so forth. And him and I become really good friends, and we call each other all the time. And he's also has MS.
Yeah. Oh, really?
So it's one of those things where it's like, holy cow, small world.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. That's a perfect segue if you don't mind. I want to go back to still picking your brain more about, just your mindset with business and things like that. And I want to talk about the diversity of business, your investments, things like that. But since you brought it up, can you share the story of MS when you got diagnosed it, and what that's been like from, a father and a business owner perspective?
Terrible.
You seem like you're doing great, by the way. You look good.
Well, thank you.
Lost a bunch of weight. Like, you look healthy and strong, but I know that has not been.
I'm kind of flabby.
Well, I mean, considering the battles that we're fighting,
right?
I think that's a story worth telling.
No, so I don't know. It was weird. So I broke my back in 2000. I don't know. I broke my back. flipped a four-wheeler off the back of a pickup. I've done it 100. I've loaded one 100 times, so on and so forth. So I broke my back, and I just dealt with it because I couldn't. One, didn't have insurance. Two, couldn't afford a surgery, and three, I needed to keep working and keep food on the table. And so I dealt with it for 5 years. And when we purchased our new home, I was actually blew the transmission up on my personal truck, and a friend of mine came to get me, and I bent over to hook the chain on, and I blew my back out again. Just slipped another disc. And I was in so much excruciating pain, I knew it was time. And so I ended up getting back surgery in January of 2019. My dad had a stroke in June of 2019. And then in like July, August, I noticed my legs were going numb again and starting to hurt because I had really bad nerve pain in my legs from my back. From my back injury.
Okay.
And so I'm like, God, there's something wrong with my back, something wrong with my back. So I went back to the back surgeon, and he's like, no, everything looks good. So he took another MRI. He's like, no, it looks good, but you need to go see a neurologist. Instead of saying, hey, there's something going on in there, go see a neurologist. I'm like, okay, cool. So I dealt with it for like another month and a half, and I kept getting worse.
And it's tingling feeling? It's like a numbness or
like,
pain?
It's like someone hitting you with a cattle prod from the inside, with a taser from the inside.
Because nerves are firing.
Nerves aren't firing.
Oh.
So then I started losing functionality in my legs, like falling a lot, stumbling a lot, tripping a lot, so on and so forth. And so I was like, all right, I need to go see a neurologist. So I went to a neurologist, and they did another MRI. And this was October, November, like December, January-ish of 2020. That they, finally were reviewing it and so on and so forth. And they did some other things to try to make it better before he got the MRIs. And then he got the MRIs, and the big bad COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I actually had to do a Zoom call with the doctor for him to tell me, you have MS.
Wow.
And he's like showing me, with the camera from the computer, this is what the lesions look like on your brain. These are what the lesions look like on your spine. These are what the lesions, you know what I mean? It was so surreal. I'm sitting in the truck. Shop is completely dead because no one's allowed to leave their house.
So we've got, obviously the COVID stress. You've got the business owner stress.
My dad just had a stroke stress.
Your dad just had a stroke. Shop slow. World shut down with COVID. And you're getting diagnosed with MS via Zoom.
Via Zoom.
Wow.
Via Zoom. Right? And so the funny thing is because the whole time my neurologist, which was awesome, I absolutely love him. The whole time he's like, there's no way you have MS. There's no way. There's no way. And so once he saw the MRIs, and I asked him that day on the Zoom call, I'm like, how come you thought so hard that I didn't have MS? He says, if I would have seen your MRI before the first time you came into my office in October, November, somewhere in there, the first time you came into my office, he says, I would have 100% thought you were in a wheelchair. He says, I've never seen someone with this many lesions, this size, walk into my office.
Wow.
He's like, I don't know if you're dumb or stupid or tough, but something, you just keep going. Like, how? I'm like,
just out here living my life.
I have to.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice. It's not only just my family's life I'm worried about. I'm worried about every single one of my employees too. And they all have kids, and, they're planning for future and so on and so forth. And that falls on my shoulders at the same time. If I were just to walk away and say, hey, I'm crippled, sorry. You're impacting so many people. I'm not. Yeah, exactly. It's not just me and mine type deal.
And there's so much there with the weight of business ownership that I think we'll get to. But I want to hear, so you're sitting in your truck. TJ, did he say MS or did he, I forget what MS even stands for. Multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
Next emotions. Like, because did you have your daughter yet?
Yeah.
So you're a new father though. Because wasn't she born in 2020?
16.
Oh, really?
16, yeah. She's 7.
She's 7?
Yeah.
Oh, it tells you how much I know. Anyway, but you have a 3-year-old though at home, which
at the time,
yeah. The business to run, you're young, you're healthy, you're strong. I mean, I know you've got back pain, but tough news. What's the what's the emotion? What's the processing? What's kind of the thought process that those first?
So like the first few minutes.
Yeah,
or the
just kind of like
first,
walk me through like you're digesting it.
I'm dying. No.
Were you scared? Were you
I was.
mad?
I
Were
was. I
you
was pissed.
anger?
I was extremely angry, but it kind of gave me, okay, that's what's been going on. What's the next step? So on and so forth.
So you pretty quickly went from anger to like, okay, what do I do about it?
It was, yeah. What can I do about it to not end up like my best friend's wife, which is also one of my best friends. Dad has it, and he's wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law has it.
Is it hereditary? Or your mother-in-law? So it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think it can transfer that way.
Not through legal means.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Fair enough. See, when I listen though, at least I listen. It's just slow.
Right. No. And generally, if it is, they say it's not. It can be. It can't be. I mean, the research is everywhere. They say it skips generations. So now I'm freaking out about my daughter. Now I'm going, okay, my mother-in-law has it and I have it, and it's supposed to skip generations. She's screwed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, but it's something you can't worry about. That's something they have to face when, but I can guarantee you, if she ever starts noticing anything, she's getting in immediately.
Quickly. Right.
So far as emotions went, it was funny because when I thought maybe I had it, maybe I didn't have it, there was just some other surgery I had to have or whatever it may be, I was okay. As soon as I found out, I felt like I couldn't walk. I was tripping. I mean, it was totally a mind game.
Of course.
And it wasn't a mind game that I seen. It was actually a mind game my neurologist said, because I called him like 2 months later, say, hey, this medication isn't working, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, do you think it's in your head? Just straightforward to the point. He may have used some more choice words than that, and I thank him for that, and sure enough, I switched a switch in my brain, and, I still fall. I still, I don't like using the stairs. I did today because I was like, hey, I can use the stairs today. So I came up your stairs, the worst part is like trying to do things with the family, like we went to a rockabilly car show thing a couple weekends ago, and day one, I did way too much. And day two, I was like, I'm going to sit in the lawn chair and listen to music, and just my legs are done.
Yeah.
And I just have to be mindful, as long as I'm mindful and count my step, or not, because it was a point I was counting my steps, just going, okay, I got this many steps a day and I'm going to use them wisely, type situation. But it was definitely fear at first. And then what can I do to never, ever get worse again? Because there's nothing you can do to reverse it right now. Nothing you can do to turn.
You can just slow the progression.
You can just slow or stop. As of right now,
you can stop the progression.
Right now, we've stopped it.
Oh, that's great.
With some really crazy medication. And then I take other medication every day for symptoms and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Type deal. Yeah.
Well, and I think that speaks to one of the I've been having these conversations with people weekly for, I think I'm closing in on 30 weeks now. And so it's been really fun because I've gotten to talk to all sorts of business owners and entrepreneurs and things like that. And there's kind of this like stoicism that successful entrepreneurs have of, I don't know, approaching problems with just just another problem.
Here we go
again.
How do we fix it?
I'll handle this one. And so it's interesting to see how that kind of translates outside of business, to life and things like that. But then there's also the realities of the responsibility. I mean, I feel it in a huge way here. I was thinking about it the other day. I come from a background of sales, but I come from worlds where there's 10 salesmen and, somebody hands you the thing to sell and you sell it and whatever. I was realizing, I'm like, no wonder I'm so stressed out and under so much pressure, because I've got to bring in enough sales
to feed
to
everyone.
Support the whole company, not just to make my commission anymore.
No.
It's like, so there's these like layers to, I just relate so much to when you were saying I didn't have a choice.
Right.
I had to go to work because my family depended on it. My employees' family depends on it. And then in my world, my clients' families depend on it. Like there's all these layers of,
huge layers.
If I have an off week, your daughter's impacted. I mean, not directly, but
Right.
I mean, seriously, it can. So I feel that weight in such a huge way. Do you think that the fact that, I don't know, there's also this kind of thing that I've heard people say when at some point every man will recognize it, that no one's coming to save you.
Right.
We're in it on our own. We've got to go get it done. We have each other.
Right.
Thank goodness. We have great community and friends. But at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you. And you know, sorry that you have MS, but no one's coming to save you. Sorry that businesses, you know, did you have that? Do you think that what I'm trying to get at is because you own your own company and you already knew no one was coming to save you. Like you're already, you know, paying your own bills and making it work on your own. Do you think that maybe helped the mindset of when you got diagnosed with MS, just shifting quick to problem solving mode? Or is that stuff that you've learned? Is that how you were raised? Because you've kind of got this, like, I mean, I've seen it in business where you've just got this way of looking at problems like neutrally almost, of like, okay, this happened, let's do A, B, and C and you know, get to the other side. And I know there was a moment of anger in some of these, of course, with the MS stuff. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, did business ownership teach you some of those skills? Did your parents teach you some of those skills?
I think
life. Yeah.
I think life taught me. I think life taught me a lot of skills. My grandfather taught me that you never, ever, ever quit.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Sun's up, you're up, type thing. And it was, you know, and I had a lot of reflection with him and like what, you know, because he wasn't alive anymore. You know, if I could have called him, what would he said? You know, and he would have said in a much more vulgar way,
Get to work.
Right? You know, it would have been, you don't have a choice, face it, keep going.
Are you grateful for that?
You know, I am.
Because that's tough love. You know, like as a parent, those are the hard things to say, but you're grateful for it.
Mm-hmm. Very grateful.
Yeah.
Very grateful. And it's actually funny because I've been help prepping a race truck all last week, and Tuesday night I was over there at his shop till 1, Wednesday night till 2, Thursday night till almost 2 in the morning, get up and go to work, you know. And the owner of the truck, he's like, man, I don't know how you do it. I'm dragging. I can't figure. I'm like, we don't have a choice. You know, still got businesses to run, still got, you know, stuff to do. And if you want to go race next week, we have to have this done too.
Yeah.
You know, I said, quit. He said, there's no sense complaining about it. It's got to get done.
It's so funny. I relate to that so much. There was a time the other day that the car was stuck in our driveway and the horses were having issues. And, you know, anyway, it was one of those, like Nicole and I are out. The kids are to bed. We've got headlamps on and we're, you know, just getting after it. And we were laughing. And we're like, and this is just a Tuesday.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, yeah.
This is just a Tuesday for us at the house, which I think that's why, you know, obviously we get along so well. Right. Is that some of those personality traits that I think translate beyond all of this. But I'm curious, you know, kind of asking about what has brought you to these, like, get to work, overcome it, solution-oriented mindset. But I'd also love to hear, you know, sort of the other side. When you got diagnosed with MS, how did that change your perspective on your businesses and priorities?
So it was, honestly, my dad's stroke changed my perspective and so on and so forth on business, because I was gone for almost 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I would come back once a week, check in with him. My manager that I have now, Demetrius, was brand new at the time.
Shout out to D.
Yeah, shout out to D. Was brand new at the time, which actually he was the only person that came up to see my dad.
Wow.
It was kind of cool.
D's such a great guy.
He just walked in one day. I'm like, what are you doing here? My dad's like, hey, D. You know, and so it was... I was very thankful that I had the correct policies and procedures and the staff I had at the time.
Oh, yeah, because the business had to run itself.
It had to run itself because I left. I'm like, my dad had a stroke. I'm heading to Junction, right? I mean, I went in for the morning production meeting, was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
See you. When are you back? I don't know. You know, send me numbers and I'll pay payroll.
Right.
Hopefully.
I'll make sure the check's clear.
You know, and so that really made me realize it. And so then I like stepped up my game. And then I started playing a little more, and then MS hit, and then it was like, okay, it's still running good. I got the right, you know, crew members. I know, you know, I've really focused on how to hire and who to hire and when to hire, and hire early, hire often. And so it wasn't that much of a change. I mean, I was gone at doctor's appointments and certain stuff, and And it didn't really change because I had already I already had the growing pains because of
A different life event.
different life event. Correct. And so if I were to give, advice, it would be prepare yourself to not be there for 3 months.
Yeah.
You know,
What do you think, and with the caveat that every business is different, but in your world, what were those difference makers? Was it people? Was it processes? Was it
policies, processes, and people.
Mm.
You got to have the right policies in place. You got to have the right procedures in place, right? And then when you put the right people in place and let go, business owners' biggest problem is micromanaging. And I catch myself doing it all the time. And I just have to be like, walk away.
Yeah.
Like I was in the shop for maybe 2 hours today and it ran great. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the whole thing is if you can actually let go as, I still have my duties. I still oversee the marketing. I still do payroll. I still pay the bills. There's certain things I still do the PR. I still, there's certain, but I have my own, I call them hat write-ups or job descriptions.
Yeah.
I call them hat write-ups. Just, that's what I was taught. But, I have my own hat and I have to wear that hat and, my technicians have their hat, my service writer has her hat, my manager has their hat and so on and so forth. And I have those hat write-ups for my other companies and I'm the only employee type deal.
Right.
Me and my wife. And then I got, people that come and help, or if I hire someone off the street, I say, this is what you have to do.
Do you think that would have happened had your dad not had his stroke? Like that you would have learned to be able to step away from the business? Or do you feel like you were forced into that and luckily it worked? Like, because it seemed like that was a little bit eye-opening
It was eye-opening. Can I step away? Right. So
like it was a test. Yeah. Like you didn't know yet.
Well, prior to that, I was already working with, some race teams and so on and so forth. So I was traveling a lot. And then the other time, before COVID, no, I wasn't working with race teams then. I was working for Management Success at the time. So I was traveling a lot all over the country.
Right.
And I'd be gone for, 5-6 days straight and then be back for 3 and then gone for 5 or 6, then back for 2 or 3 and so on and so forth. I was traveling a ton. And so that really,
there was like little tests.
Well, there was like little bitty tests along the way, but at the same time, Management Success had helped me get to that point.
Of course.
To, say, okay. And then that's honestly what they would do, like with their classes and so on and so forth. And, because you'd be out in California in class for 4, 5, 6 days, 7 days. I did a 14-day stint in California one time, and my business ran great.
How cool!
And they're like, "See?" And we're like, "Oh, okay."
Gosh, I'm trying to think if I would have the courage to walk away from my business for a week.
You have to,
and I right now certainly don't.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have the right
people, processes, and policies, processes, and people.
Policies, procedures, and people.
Yeah.
And let go.
Yeah. And I do feel like I'm getting, luckily in my world.
But you're new.
I am new.
You're what, 2 years in now?
Yeah. Just finished. Yeah. I'm in my 3rd year.
You're in your 3rd? Okay.
Yeah. But, and one nice thing is I do have, by necessity, there's people that I don't know how to do their job, which is amazing. Like Peyton, my production manager. She's so talented.
That's fine.
I can hit the red button. So like by nature, some of that's happening naturally because I can't micromanage them anyway, because I don't even know. They're so much more talented than me and so much smarter than I am anyway. The challenge for me is more of the client stuff, the relationships, the updates, the people side.
That'll get you in a bind too at the same time, because then you have those certain clients that won't call your employees.
Right. Or that I've passed, or that I've said,
you've passed. How many times have you passed me? How many times have you tried passing me?
And then my phone still rings.
Still have your cell phone number.
Yeah. So takeaway from today is I just got to start ignoring your calls.
No,
that'll be how
negative.
Yeah. No, it is funny. It's true because.
So what did I do? I said, okay, I don't want. I did the same thing with you when you were at BCI.
Yeah,
I did the same thing. You like, here's a new phone book person. She's great. I'm like, nope.
I'm working with you.
I'm working with Ben.
And that's I've been wrestling with that because those relationships are why I recognize that, that I don't want those to go away. I also have to scale a business, grow a business, where I'm finding maybe it relates to the procedures is, so Chase, Chase, he's my account manager. He's your account manager.
He's my account manager.
Yeah.
So what did I do? And you said you work with Chase. So I told Dee, work with Chase.
Yeah. And I think they
CC
are.
me on everything and I'll approve it.
Right.
But I don't want to talk to that guy.
Right. And they are working, and we're joking, obviously, but,
Right.
It's just, I'm processing your advice and your tips because and I didn't realize it was a procedure until just this moment, but where I have successfully had Chase be the account manager and my phone not ring is when I bring him in at the kickoff call at the beginning. Yeah. So now I know, like, okay, new client landed, kickoff call, bring Chase, and the relationships, and they feel like it's like a formal, good handoff. They're in good hands.
Okay, so I'm gonna help you out just a little more. So do you remember when Dee and I came up here and we did our check-in for the Veterans Car giveaway and so on and so forth, and you had Chase was sick and he was supposed to be here, and you're like, I don't care, I want your face in front of these guys. So that's called a proper handoff. So from that point forward, I've emailed Chase, or I've had Dee email Chase on any changes or anything we're doing. So that's what you call a proper handoff.
That's the caveat.
So what you got to do is, even if it's an old client,
they
love seeing your face, do the proper handoff. Here, this is Chase. He's my guy. He's going to take care of you the same as I would. If you have any troubles, call me then.
Yeah. And then I get to just podcast.
Right. So that's called the proper handoff.
Yeah.
So that, yes, you have to bring them in on the beginning on new clients, but your old clients, you need to do the proper handoff.
Yeah. Not just like, hey, here's your
new account manager.
Not an email.
Right.
Yeah. That's so interesting. People, procedures, process, procedures, people. I almost had it. Procedure and people I have.
Policies.
Policies. Procedures, people. The 3 Ps.
You got to have policies. You got to have procedures.
Yeah.
You got to have people.
Yeah.
It has to be in writing.
No, I love that.
Has to be in writing.
Because, I think a lot of business owners struggle with.
Ask my guys. I introduced a new policy 3 weeks ago, and guess what? It's been followed to a T, and I get a projection sheet every day before 9:45.
Because it's in writing. It's roll it out properly.
They had to sign it.
Yeah.
And
that's probably an important caveat, too. The people have to know about the policy. And the procedures, and it has to be documented.
So when I do catch something going haywire or crazy or awry, I'll say, I'm pretty sure there's a policy and a procedure for that. Let's review it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's where you made the mistake. Or maybe we need to rewrite it. It's changed.
Right.
Everything's changed.
Yeah, it can evolve.
It's evolved, But I have policies and procedures from the second you unlock that door.
Yeah.
How to unlock the door. Security codes. How to unlock the door. Where the light switches are, how to turn the lights on, how to turn the compressor on, how to drain the compressor, how to turn the heater on in the winter.
Yeah.
It's everything.
It's so smart. We just recently had a example where we have a few different hosting services where websites are hosted, and a client had a change, and we checked one and it wasn't in there. And so we were like, we don't host your website. I'm like, well, no, yeah, we do. It's just on this one. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to have a sheet that says every website and where it's hosted and, how to access it, those little like learning things. But I love that advice because that's going to help me kind of formalize that stuff. Cause I think, most business owners want to own a business, not have a business own them.
Well, and
it's so hard to get to that point.
Well, and that's the whole thing is you as a business owner are better working on your business than in your business.
Yeah.
You cannot work in your business. And that kills you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jeez.
It does.
Oh, you're telling me.
Because what happens is, you can work. Yeah, you can do all the stuff. You can do this. You can do that, so on and so forth. But the business side still needs done for everything else to run.
Right.
So now you're staying up till 2:00 in the morning doing paperwork or whatever it may be for the business because you worked in it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Easier said than done for sure, especially for anybody listening. But
it's tough.
Yeah, but it's something to work towards, I think. And I'm early in, but eventually long term. So just curious, you've got this entrepreneurial spirit, Durango, your shop has been incredibly successful, and I've kind of seen how, you've got the real estate investments too with the building that you're in and then the building next to you and who knows what else. But I've just kind of seen your investments and things like that. Are you, and then, you throw in the realities with MS and being a father and all of that stuff. Where are you at right now? Like from a mindset perspective, are you hungry? Are you still chasing stuff? Are you scheming? Do you have big plans or are you kind of like reprioritizing? What's
I would say yes. All of the above. All of the above. So, I mean, yes, I'm always hungry. I'm always hungry. I'm always like, I mean, you can ask my wife. I'm always looking at real estate. I'm always looking at other businesses, and she brings, stuff to me and she's like, well, what do you think of this? And then I just beat the living crap out of it. And she's like, all right, never mind. I've had her family ask me about certain businesses and stuff, and I look at all the paperwork and I look at stuff and I'm like, it could fly, but you need X, Y, and Z to make it work. So yes, I'm always scheming. I'm always looking for the next thing. So me in business and doing this is, I mean, I haven't been in business for 100 years or 50 years or 40 years. The shop's been in business, yes, for approaching 50 years. I've been part of it for the last 25. I don't want people anymore. Does that make sense? I want something that either A, can run idle, or run with very little input.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, totally.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
But yeah, and I'm always trying to figure out how to make the shop more efficient, the shop run better, so on and so forth. I've contemplated selling both of them and building a brand new, $3-4 million facility with everything and the new state of the art and so on and so forth. And it's just, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Isn't that funny?
I don't know yet.
Paralyzed with what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think of that all the time. Like how nice it would be if I really did have an advisory board,
Right.
Like you're on an island, business owner, you've got to make big decisions.
You're naked
frequently.
and afraid.
Yeah. And
you're naked and afraid.
And everyone thinks you have all the answers, but you don't.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, thinking it all through and all of that.
Yeah, my mind's always turning though. That's why I don't sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is I mean, do you think you'll always be an entrepreneur though? Like
yeah, I mean, I can never sit still. I mean, yeah, I've gotten a little more relaxed. Having kids makes it, you prioritize your time a little different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I never want to quit.
Yeah. You just want to go boating more.
How can I turn that into something?
Yeah.
That's how my brain works.
Right.
Like, do I open a boat shop? Do
Yeah.
I play with boats all the time? What do I want to do? I don't know right now.
Yeah.
It's an eerie feeling.
Is that exciting? Is that scary? Like, because on one hand it's paralyzing, but also on the other hand it's limitless.
It is. It's very limitless.
And I think that's one thing like that's been cool for me. I've learned with business ownership, and I'm all in on a cent. Like that's not going anywhere. But it is nice to know. I believe I could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I believe that I could start just about any business and run it well. One thing that helps is that I've got a great marketing background. So, I could market whatever the business is. But it is cool. It's kind of, there's almost too many options, but it also is freeing to know, like, if shit hit the fan, Ascent, closes up tomorrow, I certainly am not getting another job. Start another business.
It's very, very, very hard to go back to work for someone else.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I could go do a mindless job for
Maybe,
a few years.
Man.
I mean,
I don't know. You'd have a boss.
Yeah, but I would also.
Of course, yeah, it would be kind of nice.
You know what I mean? Just show up.
The check's the same every 2 weeks.
Yeah, just mindless. You know what I mean? How
you'd be bored so fast,
and that's fine.
You wouldn't last a month.
I would love to be bored.
Yeah,
I would love it.
Isn't that funny? Like
for
you
just
sort of
a little
envy?
bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit. But I agree. I would get bored. And then my wife would see something pull in the or in the shop or the garage.
And now you're spending your energy on less productive things.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think it would be enjoyable to be bored
Yeah.
for
For a moment.
a moment, like you said, yeah, for this little period of time and go, okay, now what?
Yeah.
You know,
So do you have aspirations of passing the business on to your,
I do. I really do. I really, really would like to see, especially the core group of employees I have right now, purchase it.
Yeah.
I would love to see that, because I would like to keep it around. I mean, it's, you know, kind of a staple,
Yeah. It's got
There's
a
not,
great brand.
you know,
No, it really is.
now that we had to rebrand it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you screwed up the first one. No, just kidding.
The rebrand is what I'm proud of. No, but yeah. And it's interesting because it's kind of like, I don't know. And you've gotten to the point where it's mature enough that it's its own thing.
Right.
I'm actively working on that with Ascent. Like I want Ascent Digital to be its own.
No, and you've
I don't
done phenomenal.
always want it to, people think Ben Sorensen and Ascent Digital, like that Ascent Digital is its own standalone brand, talented people, like you've done with Durango Automotive Repair.
Right. I mean, it's
it can outlive you even.
because it's used to always be the Cleveland,
right?
And yeah, I appreciate that and I love that. And yes, I have certain customers that come there because we are the Cleveland, but at the same time, I want them to say, hey, I talked to D, or hey, Nick's great. Will did phenomenal work. Hey, I love Kane, your new addition to the shop. He's, he did awesome on my Toyota or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I like hearing those things more than anything. I
Oh,
love those
way more.
reviews.
Yeah.
I absolutely love those. When they, mention one of my employees in a review, I give them a bonus.
Yeah.
It's,
how cool.
It's awesome. And it's something that you have to take with stride because it hurts at first.
Right. Because it's like your baby and you're like, and it's going to be a little different than you were, like,
yeah,
the thing you're not involved with is not exactly how you would have done it, but it still happened and it happened well. And like, for me, I love it when a sign for success for me has been, when there's multiple things happening with my business at the same time. Like I love that. Like the other day we had half of our crew up in Ridgeway. We had a videographer on a shoot for in Telluride with Wagner Skis. And, I was down in Farmington or whatever. And we were kind of like sharing on social media. And I was like, this is cool. Like there's 5 things happening. I'm only involved in one of them, and it's like, but yeah, you're right.
Wouldn't that be so much better if you were involved in it from Mexico?
Yeah. From the beach.
With your wife and your family?
Yes. You're telling me, but it is a little, it's a little weird, but like, I'm more proud of that than anything I'm involved in.
Right.
Like I love it when my team is representing the brand well, doing what they're good at. It's so much better that way anyway.
Exactly.
Like I don't know if you know who Nick Bear is or not, but he owns a supplement company. And he said he's way more proud of the title founder than he is CEO or president.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea is to start something and, let it be its own thing. You founded it. Way cooler than,
I like that.
President,
right?
The founder.
The founder. I'm not the founder.
No, you're not.
I am not the founder.
Yeah, you're right. But you could be the owner.
I can be the owner.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
cool.
About
it.
It's so fun. TJ, thank you so much for giving me advice. Thanks for being my friend. Thanks for buying from me 15 years ago, 10 years ago and, starting us down this path and the personal relationship I value like crazy. Thanks for taking me on the boat with my kids and all of that stuff. But I also really value the professional relationship and getting to learn from you and pick your brain. And, I've, it's like I mentioned earlier when I was starting it, but it's incredibly valuable for me. Well, you mentioned, that idea of who you surround yourself with mattering and, being around people that are smarter than you. And I consider you one of them. And so I'm grateful whenever I get to pick your brain and learn from you and see. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate that. And it's so cool to see the way you've dealt with MS and the businesses and, wearing all of the hats with fatherhood and community and all of that stuff. I just want you to know how much I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you forcing us to buy a bigger phone book ad because it's created a great friendship. It really has.
I sold my way to friendship.
You sold your way. You bought your way in.
Yeah.
With sales.
Yeah. One commission at a time.
Yeah. And I look at you and I see your, Instagram posts and your Facebook posts and stuff. And, you know, and how well you are doing here. And I was so excited to see you go out on your own and do your thing. You know what I mean? And then running, and I'm going to run the 100-mile race, and I'm trying to figure out who's chasing you. I want to see the guy that's chasing you, because he ain't going to catch you.
No, thank you.
You know, you're gonna run off with it all.
I appreciate that so much.
It's awesome.
I have a surprise for you, a gift, and it's a sincere one.
Is it an Accent Digital shirt?
Much better. It's an Inspire by Example shirt, because you inspire me through your example of just how you're living life. I mean, it was so fun that day sitting on the boat with you and your family, and getting to see you out of work mode, out of, you know, entrepreneur mode, and into dad and friend mode. And I just want you to know on so many levels how much you inspire me. And I just really appreciate you sharing some wisdom, and keep doing what you're doing.
Well, it's like you running. That's your happy place.
Yeah.
Being on the waters, man.
I need to spend more time on a boat, though.
Yep.
TJ, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
It was fun.